Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Mike Brey Show. I'm Jack Nolan, joined once again by the head coach of the Fighting Irish. And Mike, your team collected a much-needed win over Boston College this week, a game that may have been won just as much in the practices leading up to the game as on the floor in Purcell Pavilion last Saturday.
Well, you're right, Jack. We needed one, and I thought we responded well after a tough road trip through the state of Virginia in our practices Thursday and Friday. You know, just addressing some of the stuff we need to do better defensively, our ability to compete more consistently, play in and play out, and you know, to earn one over 40 minutes felt good. Yeah, it's been a while.
And Mike, you needed everybody to step up their games, and they did. This game had the signature ingredient of a successful Mike Brey team: 5 guys scoring in double figures.
Well, we had 5 guys in double figures. We had 21 assists and only 7 turnovers. Our offensive efficiency was brilliant. You know, I thought Prentice Hub quarterbacking our group for the minutes he played was fabulous. But you're right. Everybody was involved. We shared the ball. We played the right way. But the improvement area, which we need to keep addressing, which we did a better job of, was on the defensive end of the floor to keep that shooting percentage down closer to 40 of our opponent instead of up there around 50, which has, you know, been the thing that's broke our back a few times already in league play.
And you mentioned the turnovers, very good, just 7, a couple below your average. But the remarkable thing was the first one didn't occur until 9 minutes into the second half.
That really is amazing. I mean, I think you could go 5-on-0 with no defense for 30 minutes in practice, and you'd at least throw it away 3 times. And so, you know, it's something we preached here in our program, taking care of the ball and being good with the ball. And I looked at the stat sheet at halftime, 11 assists, 0 turnovers. It was a little staggering. So we did a great job taking care of it.
Now, I think it's fair to say that no one stepped up his game more than Jawan Durham, who turned in just his 4th career double-double and first of the season, 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocked shots. Not bad for a guy that after the shoot-around, you were not sure would even play in the game.
Well, you and I talked after the shoot-around, and he was over there resting and trying to get some meds to kick in, and he didn't have the look that he was going to play. So I give him a lot of credit. You know, Jawan has had some tough luck on the injury front throughout his whole basketball career, but I give him credit for battling through and delivering, and boy, did we need him.
Now, you were supposed to take the momentum gained from that win over Boston College and jump on a plane and head to Washington, D.C. for a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day contest against Howard. But because of COVID-19 issues in the Howard program, that game got postponed until next season.
You know, really disappointing, because certainly the symbolism and the educational value around the game, us playing on an HBCU campus on MLK Day. Well, we also had a chance to win a second game in 3 days. And that's what I was hoping we could do coming out of Virginia. And so for obvious reasons, they just did not have enough available players. We will postpone the game exactly 1 year, and we will be back at Howard next year. But then it left us a week where you're not playing a game. And Jack, you and I both know when you have a good win, you want to get back on the court again when you've found some rhythm. So we've had to be creative all week with the practice plan.
Yeah, you certainly didn't want another week off. You tried very hard to schedule another game, and 2 opportunities went by the wayside. So what have you done this week in practice?
Well, you know, what you have to do is you have to make practices like a game. So midweek, we will go into the arena and just scrimmage and play. And, Thursday, we will do that. We'll just play 5-minute periods in game situations because your guys have to play. You can't sit there and run drills 4 straight days. And then you can get back into Miami prep on Friday and Saturday.
Now, I know one guy in particular who really wanted to play this week was Dane Goodwin, who returned to his consistent and outstanding level of play from earlier in the season with a game-high 21 points against Boston College to go with 3 rebounds and an assist. He hit a little bump in the road the previous 4 games. What did he do to get back on track?
You know, I think his determination, he's really hard on himself, maybe sometimes too hard on himself, and ties himself up in knots a little bit. He did not have a good stretch down in Virginia. through the Virginia Tech Virginia game. But he is a guy that bounces back. We've coached him now. I've coached him for 2.5 seasons, and kind of the ebb and flow of Dane. He had great practices the 2 days leading up to Boston College, so I thought he'd really deliver, and he did.
And folks, we will hear from Dane Goodwin a little later, as he is our player guest on this edition of the Mike Brey Show. Our friends at NECA want to remind you that they are continuing their efforts to make our community brighter. It's what NECA electrical contractors do every day through donations, volunteer efforts, and by training the next generation of electrical workers through apprenticeship programs. The NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 153 preparing for a brighter tomorrow. Now, Mike, before we wrap up this first segment, I have to talk to you about something that happened earlier this week when a guy that used to go to your games at Delaware was sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. I know you watched. What were your thoughts?
It was very touching. And I loved President Biden now. I loved his tone on Wednesday. It was calming. And we all need some calming. But you're right. When I coached at the University of Delaware, Senator Joe Biden used to be in the Bob Carpenter Center. And as you know, I hang out in Rehoboth Beach, and he hangs out in Rehoboth Beach. We've crossed paths many times. And that personality of, hey, Mike, Coach Mike, how you doing? Kind of a guy you can connect with. So it's funny how it all comes around full circle. But I certainly remember him from my Delaware days.
President Biden, a Delaware graduate, also got his law degree from Syracuse. So many basketball connections for the president. And I bet you're kind of thinking that next year, when you go play at Howard, I bet you might leave at least a couple of tickets.
Well, the one thing about playing this thing a year later is I guarantee you our vice president, who is a Howard grad, will be at the game. And I bet even President Biden, we can get to the game. So a year from now, it could really be a heck of an afternoon on MLK Day in Washington, D.C.
That will be really, really cool. Folks, when we come back, we will review Notre Dame's win over Boston College after this first time out of the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com, the ultimate in contactless tire buying. It's time now for our game breakdown, brought to you by our friends at Meijer. You worked your guys very hard in practice after the 2-game Virginia road trip with a goal of raising their intensity and energy levels, and that certainly seemed to pay dividends against Boston College. BC led for about a minute and a half early in the game and never led again.
Jack, I thought we had to kind of send a message. Maybe at times coming out of Virginia, we felt a little sorry for ourselves. Well, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. We got to grow up and own it. And we were not good enough on the defensive end, and we did not compete hard enough to get loose balls. And so we needed to do that on Thursday and Friday. And I thought it did pay off in our game against Boston College.
Juwan Durham tied the game at 4 at a nice feed from Prentice Hub, and Coach Juwan seemed to benefit from those 2 intense practices before the BC game. After missing the shoot-around with back spasms, he turned in a terrific performance, recording his first double-double of the season and 4th of his career with 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocked shots.
Well, I love the rebounding stat. That's something we could really use more from him. And I've challenged him continually. You're going to play long enough minutes. I think you should be close to 8 or 9, 10 rebounds a game. So hopefully we've broken the ice on that front. But a lot of respect for Juwan and how he's felt to lead a little bit with this group now as a 5th-year senior, and he's a captain. And he knows his teammates really need him. Even though some days his body doesn't feel great, he's learning how to fight through that and still compete.
And speaking of fighting through, Nate Laszewski is dealing with being opponents' main defensive focus right now, but it didn't bother him in the first half of this game. He gave you the lead at 7-4 with a 3, and that started a string of 8 straight points by Nate to really give you some momentum, and it could have been a one-man 10-point run if he hadn't missed a couple of free throws.
What I appreciate about Nate is now that people are really leaning toward him defensively because of the unbelievable start that he had, he doesn't force things. He still lets the game come to him. He is our most unselfish defender and helps and talks and rotates, certainly rebounds the ball. And he's found a way now, because they're taking away him at the three-point line a lot of times, driving and getting fouled. Now we got to work on those free throws, knocking them down, because I know Nate can be an 80% free throw shooter when all's said and done.
Now you took the lead for good at 15-12 when Nick Jogo grabbed the rebound and raced down the floor before finding Trey Wirtz for a transition three.
Well, the one thing about Nick Jogo from day one has been he has been solid. He has been steady. He knows who he is. And that was a heck of a play to kind of jumpstart us.
Trey is known as a scorer, but he does an awful lot of things for you. He only scored 5 points in this game, but he had 3 rebounds and 3 assists in 29 minutes.
Yeah, the one thing about him, he takes a little pressure off of Prentice Hub. He is a playmaking guard. He's good off the dribble. You could even say he's kind of a point guard who can also score it. But he loves making plays for people. He's a great passer. He's a really intelligent player. Like Hub, I really challenged he and Prentice the Thursday, Friday leading up. I just thought they could be better defenders than they've shown, to sit down and be more athletic defenders. They were, but it's something we still have to stay on them about.
BC shot the ball very well in their win last season at Purcell, which I know you remember well. And they had made 18 threes in their previous game against Miami. But when you took a 21-12 lead midway through the first half, part of the reason was your defense, which had limited BC to 3 for 14 shooting at that point.
Well, we were worried about defending them outside the arc, especially coming off a game against Miami where they made 18. And so we were more aware of really getting out and chasing out. And I thought our guards and our big guys on screens, if we had to switch out on their shooters, we were very alert. We were more aware than we were through the whole state of Virginia, quite frankly. We were more aware, and we're going to have to stay after that, Jack.
Now, BC did rally. They cut your lead to 21-19, and that's when Juwan Durham hit a turnaround jumper from about 18 feet away at the shot clock buzzer. What were your thoughts when he knocked that shot down?
Well, we kind of have a set when it's low clock, side out of bounds. And really, it was a two-man play. Dane Goodwin, taking the ball out of bounds, did a great job of waiting till Juwan was open. You know, Juwan was contested at first, and then he got positioned again. Dane fired it in there. And, you know, Juwan has a great stroke facing the bucket. We've seen it. He can make free throws. He can make a 15, 18-footer. Every now and then he can make a three-point shot. But I just thought the two of them understood the game situation. And that was a big bucket because, you know, BC had some momentum there in the first half.
And it took a while for you guys to take that momentum away. They did cut the lead to 1 with 5:24 left in the half, but that's when your guys took control with a 12-2 run, and you hit the locker room at halftime with a 10-point lead.
Yeah, I thought we finished the half well. We were able to get out in transition and get some easy buckets. You know, it's funny when you get stops defensively, it's a license to let you go run and play 5-on-4 or 4-on-3. We're really good in those situations, but we have not given ourselves enough of them because our defense has let us down at times.
Now, you and I have often talked about the importance of the opening minutes of the second half of any game. And this one, you certainly wanted to maintain your lead. You actually quickly expanded it to 14, thanks in part to Prentice Hub, who hit back-to-back threes early. He ended up with his third career double-double with 13 points, 10 assists, and 3 steals.
Well, you're right, Jack. How you finish a half, how you start a half can really dictate who wins the game many times. And for Prentice Hub, though, certainly his offensive numbers and how he ran the team and took good shots. But I thought better defensively, more engaged defensively. And my goal has been to get him to understand, don't sell yourself short as a defender. You're a more athletic defender than you are giving us. And I would include Trey Wirtz in that. Between the two of them, I've stayed after them about defending better. But certainly how you end a half and how you start a half can really set a tone.
Now, also helping you put this game away was Dane Goodwin, who scored 14 of his game-high 21 points in the second half. He made 8 of his 14 shots in the game, including 5 of 9 from three-point land.
Well, every time BC thought maybe they had a run in him, it was a Dane Goodwin bucket that really, really helped us. And he had that look. He had that focus. And it's my goal and his goal and my objective and his objective to keep that focus and edge about him every game, not 3 out of 4.
And he delivered the dagger in this one, back-to-back threes, 8 minutes into the second half that gave you a 17-point lead, your largest of the game. Now, through your first 7 games, an argument can be made that Dane was your most consistent player. He had been inconsistent in the 4 games before BC, but this was a classic Dane Goodwin performance.
Yeah, again, I fully expected him to kind of explode after having a tough 2 previous games, but watching him in practice that Thursday and Friday and how he responded to the atmosphere we created, I fully expected him to really come out, and he did.
We'll be back with more on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com, right after this timeout. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Basketball. It's time now for this week's Ask Coach Brey question, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. This week's question comes from diehard Notre Dame fan Brian Berry of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Coach, when was the last time you wore a necktie?
I love that we have a fan down there on Tobacco Road. We have a few fans down there on Tobacco Road. God, it may have been my press conference. In July of 2000, I saw some pictures with Kevin White retiring in the last week, and it was my press conference, and I had a nice little tie on. It wasn't a fake tie. It was a real tie. Maybe the last one would have been one of my players' weddings 10, 12 years ago. So I've avoided it, but I don't know. Maybe I should bring it back when we come out of the pandemic. What do you think?
No, I would never wear a tie anymore if you don't have to wear a tie. There are times you have to wear a tie, but if you don't have to, comfort is key. Matter of fact, thanks to you, I don't wear one broadcasting the games. Of course, this year with nobody in the arena, I'm wearing a sweatsuit to do the game. So that's been terrific.
True.
It's time now for our Performance of the Week segment, and I think it's fair to say that nobody stepped up his game more this week than Juwan Durham, who turned in his 4th career double-double, and first of the season he had 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocked shots. And he didn't even go through the pregame shoot-around. You and I talked after that. You didn't even think he'd be able to play.
Yeah, I looked at him in the morning of the shoot-around, and, he did not look good. And we were kind of planning accordingly, who to start, who to play, get Matt Zona more ready to play. And then in warmups, he told Nixon, our trainer, I'm good to go. And man, he was not good to go. He was great to go. And I give him a lot of credit. Juwan has not had the best luck physically throughout his whole career, high school, UConn, us. He battles through stuff. And I know his body doesn't feel great at this point in the season. And there's a lot of miles on those legs, but he's soldiering through. And I respect that.
Is there another step for him, or is it a matter to continue the energy, effort, and quite honestly, intestinal fortitude to get on the court every night?
I think the thing that I liked about it was the rebounding. I think we've always challenged him that he can be maybe a better rebounder than he's been on most nights. And could we break through with the Boston College game and, rebound better? When he's rebounding for us on both ends, man, does that really help us. He plays unselfishly. He's a great passer from the low post. He's a great teammate. As a captain, he's even learned how to be a leader and a voice, which is good because it puts some pressure on him to be available because he's a captain. There's a nice dynamic there. But we try to rest him a little bit between games, and Nixon is good at getting some recovery stuff in the cold bath, and then you got to go play.
Coming up next, we sit down with Notre Dame junior guard Dane Goodwin here on the Mike Brey Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show. No Notre Dame player has ever taken or made more three-point field goals in a game or a single season than former Irish guard Kyle McIlarney. He still ranks 4th all-time in three-point field goals made at Notre Dame. And the Staten Island native did more than just shoot from downtown. His 376 career assists still ranks 16th on Notre Dame's all-time list. McIlharney's shooting and passing prowess helped him earn first-team All-Big East honors in 2009 and led to a successful professional career in Europe before he returned home to coach his high school alma mater, Moore Catholic. But Kyle is best remembered by how he turned the adversity of an expulsion from Notre Dame into one of the great comeback stories in school history. Kyle is now working as an advisor for professional basketball players and took some time to catch up with Coach Brey earlier this week.
Kyle McIlharney, the Staten Island Flash, it is awesome to catch up with you. You've moved from New York and working at your old high school to Chicago. Give us an update.
I guess to catch everybody up, 2 kids now, 5-year-old son, James, 3-year-old girl, Maddie. My wife, Megan, and I, last 2 years since I retired from playing, I was the athletic director and head coach at my former high school, my alma mater, Moore Catholic, which was I needed that experience for my life. And it was challenging in a lot of ways, but lo and behold, I got an opportunity via one of our guys, Kieran Pillar, who hooked me up. And I feel like I did a great job with that opportunity in training one of the players here at Priority Sports and developed some relationships that served me well. And here I am. I moved out here to Chicago. We love it out here. Back in the Midwest, man, the sausage, the ice cream. I miss my pizza, but they still got some good stuff out here.
Well, it's good to have you close by. And when we can open this darn campus up again, I know you're going to come and visit us. And I know you went through 2 years of being a high school administrator and coach. And you and I talked a lot about how you were going to reinvent and what was the next step. And it was so neat to hear Kieran get you involved. And you're a natural teacher of the game. God, you're just so good at teaching the game and talking to guys. So I think you've definitely found your niche. What are you able to do right now in the pandemic as far as working guys out, talking to guys? What's your role right now in your new position?
So my role is sort of unique. I'm studying to become an agent, a certified MBPA agent. But in the meantime, part of the reason why they brought me on here is to essentially be the filter for everything basketball related, everything between the lines. So when I came aboard here last spring, we were just about to embark on the pre-draft process. We had 9 guys in our pre-draft class. Managing that remotely was a little challenging, but so in terms of the pandemic, it's all remote. It's all a lot of film work, a lot of talking guys through things. And my goal, I'm trying to develop a relationship with all of our clients, which is hard to do remotely. But that's essentially what I'm doing. I break down a lot of film. I walk guys through things. I give them tips. I talk to all their trainers back home and oversee everything that they're doing. And it's great for me because the last 2 years as the AD at Moore, there was a lot, as you know, there's a lot of non-basketball related tasks that you have to do on a daily basis. And this is like a dream position for me because it's basketball all the time. I'm plugged into what's going on in college basketball. I'm very plugged into what's going on in the league. And I love it. I love it. And I'm immersed in the game. And to me, that's what I care about most other than my family.
Well, you sound upbeat about it. That's what's the key. I guess when we get through this pandemic and let's say the summer opens up, will you then have guys coming to Chicago in the gym and you're hands-on with the workouts?
Yes. So we already have a few guys who kind of call Chicago their home base. And so a couple times a week, I'll get in with them at a gym here that we have. But yeah, once things open up, obviously with our draft class, we bring them here for 2-3 months before the draft to get ready for that. So I'm going to oversee all of that. And then I will be doing some traveling. So the one guy that I really work with the most is Gordon Hayward, who's now in Charlotte. I work with him very closely. So I'll be traveling there a bunch, and with some of the other guys who are now spread out in the league, I'll be going to see them from time to time as well. If, I sort of, the way that I describe it, because it is sort of unique, is I'm sort of like a surgeon. I try and get into the nitty gritty, into the details of what they're doing, and maybe some things that their teams or their coaching staff is missing that can help them individually, sort of like a bridge between the agency and their coaching staff. So it's, so that's it. I'll be doing some traveling once things open up.
Well, I know you did an unbelievable job with Gordon Hayward, because you brought him back from that just horrific injury, and it sure sounds like he's found a pretty good niche down there in Charlotte. I was watching some highlights the other night, and you're unbelievable in that role. So I'm having a flashback, of when we recruited you, and it's funny. Here's what I was thinking as I'm listening to you. I'm thinking about my recruiting of you the first time I saw you play. We just had the Howard University game canceled. We were going to play there, and it was going to be a great story on Monday. But the first time I saw you play was in the bottom gym of Howard University at an AAU tournament. And I remember calling Sean Carney, who was out in Las Vegas watching an AAU tournament, at halftime of your game. And I said, we found our point guard. Now we got to get him. All hands on deck to get McElharney. And fortunately, we were able to get you. And you were always a great story because, you weren't rated as a Power 5 ACC Big East level guy. But because of your work ethic, and you probably still have the More Catholic gym key in your pocket, you probably still have that. Because of your work ethic, I use you as an example with, many of the guys since you've been going here, of just grinding and making yourself better, and talk a little bit about, tell our fans a little bit about your workout schedule back when you were a high school player and you had the key to the gym.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. And part of it was, Coach, part of it was I always, I think now I've come out of my shell, but I feel like I've always been a little socially not awkward, but I'm very introverted, so I'm not. So part of it was like, I'm not a social kind of go out on the town kind of guy. Obviously, I love the game. So anytime I could be in the gym, I absolutely love it. So the story goes like this. When I was a sophomore at More Catholic, we always practiced before school anyway, because my coach at the time, he actually worked in the Twin Towers before 9/11. So he would travel into the city after our practice. I read an article about Sebastian Telfair, who was at Lincoln High School at the time in Coney Island in Brooklyn, and he would work out before school. And I told my father, if I could do that, if I had the key to the gym, I would do that. And like only my father can, he said, and there was some other choice words in there, as you can imagine, but just ask. Just go ask for the key. And so I did that. I asked for the key, and the deal was, here's the key for 2 weeks. If you're not in here every morning at 4:30 or 5, I forget what he said, I'm taking it away. If anybody else is in here, I'm taking it away. If anything's out of place, I'm taking it away. And of course, I still have that key today. So I would work out at 4:30 in the morning for an hour before practice. And then I also had a YMCA membership, a local YMCA membership. And I tell players this all the time when I tell this story, is just because you're working out in the morning doesn't mean you're any better than the guy working out after school. What you do when you work out in the morning is you add time to your day. So you need to take advantage of that time later in the day also. So I also would work out after school. So that those hours added up, and those habits have stuck with me. And yeah, that led to a lot of my success. But I think now looking back, more so it was the way that I was raised, because I do believe character matters more than what people talk about. So
that's a great story. And you mentioned your family, and gosh, I miss, when I've talked to our former guys, I picture their families sitting behind our bench, yelling at the refs, whatever, and catch us up a little bit on your family, because I miss them so, and they were so supportive of us and you when you were here?
Yeah, they're not mom and dad anymore. It's grandma and pop pop. So I don't matter anymore. uh, my dad, it's great to see him. You know, my father, Coach. He's an old school guy. You know, he's a tough guy, and but to see him with my daughter is really cool. And my mom's retired. She's retired, so she's full on grandma mode. My brother has two boys and a baby girl as well, so she's full on grandma mode. And you know, they're back in New York doing their thing. They're laying low and trying to be safe through all this, but they're doing great. They're doing great.
Oh, I miss him. Tell your mother I'm still scared of her.
Yeah,
and right, we all are. But as we've done these interviews, and it was David Graves, and I remember his dad and Luke Herring. You know, I just remember the parents and traveling. And again, it was the Big East days, and going through all those arenas back east, and enjoying great road wins, coming out and high-fiving them. There was nothing like seeing you with your parents when you win at Rutgers or St. John's or, you know, Connecticut. You know, so you know, I'll wrap it up by saying we're so darn proud of you here, and we use you. Boy, are you an example I use with our guys, and I'm praying like heck we open up this the country and we can get you back, because I want you to speak to our team. We haven't been able to take advantage of things like that, and we've got a number of Chicago guys, as you said over there, that I'd like for you to be around our current guys, because they're a lot like you, and they're young and they're growing. But you know, please tell everybody, Kieran and the Chicago Army of ND basketball that's over there. Please tell them I said hello, and when I can, I owe you guys dinner and some refreshments in Chicago. I'm coming over to take you guys out.
I appreciate that, Coach. I would love to come down there and speak to the guys, because you know, the one thing that I would say, and I see it now, you know, having 10 years removed from South Bend, is what happens in that locker room really it forms you into the man that you become, the father that you become, and the husband that you become, and those relationships are cemented in your life, and you know, it's a special deal, and you created it, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it's 50. There's been 52 guys that have come through in my 20 years, and they're all, you know, you guys are all sons to me. And you go through everything as you guys grow and have a family and have success or need help or whatever. But we're unbelievably proud of you, the men that you've become and are out there in the real world. And please tell your family, be safe. You know, we love them. Go Irish. And I'll catch up with you soon, K-Mac. I miss you.
Miss you too, Coach. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show. Notre Dame fans, Tire Rack is the presenting sponsor of the Mike Brey Show, and like the Irish, knows a thing or two about passion and performance. Their on-site test track is their home court, and they've got a playbook that includes safe, no-contact mobile installation in many areas. Get your tires right at TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be. Tire Rack also presents our weekly player interview, and joining us now is Irish junior guard Dane Goodwin. Dane has moved into a starting role this season after being one of the best six men in the ACC last year. Dane has responded to his starting role with the best season of his career. He is third on the team in scoring and rebounding at 13.3 points and 4.7 rebounds per game, and is also third on the team in steals with 8. Dane is coming off one of his best games of the season. He led the Irish in scoring in Notre Dame's win over Boston College with 21 points after hitting 8 of his 14 shots in the game, including 5 of 9 from three-point land. Mike, how has Dane improved his game this season?
You know, I just think his all-round game, I was teasing him in the preseason. I said, you're going to be a guard this year, right? You're not a forward anymore. You're not a high school forward. And I think he's become that. You know, his assist to turnover is better. He's become a better defender. He's been more conscious of his stance. He's always had the knack for rebounding the basketball, and he's always had the knack for scoring. And we want him to hunt his stuff and be aggressive offensively like he was against Boston College.
Dane, welcome to the Mike Brey Show. What do you think are the biggest improvements you have made to your game this season?
Yeah, like Coach said, just touching up on every aspect of my game. I think paying more attention to the defensive end has helped me and getting more engaged, and I think that's carried over to the offensive end, and just being more aggressive this year, even more than last year's been great for me.
Yeah, Dane, I think there's no question we were teasing with you. I know through the preseason, be a guard and be a, and one of the things you've always had the knack for rebounding, and where does that come from? You had to be a great rebounder in high school as well. I know you were with your AAU team.
Yeah, I think they came, definitely from my high school years, and kind of having to be the bigger guard that played almost a big. Get my nose in there and go get rebounds a lot, and I think that's translated to the college level a little bit. I still think I need to do a better job sometimes in that area, and getting down and dirty a little bit, and going and get those rebounds.
Now, before your freshman year of high school, you committed to Ohio State, but then there was a head coaching change there. You reopened your recruitment and ended up coming to Notre Dame. Why'd you make that choice?
Yeah, honestly, I grew up a big Notre Dame fan, and being close to Ohio State was definitely enticing. It would have been cool to kind of have that hometown feel, but after the coach left the Admata, I kind of opened it up a little bit, and came and looked at Notre Dame, and I immediately fell in love. I thought it was almost meant to be in a way, and I was very happy with that decision.
Jack, Dane's mom, I don't think he knows this. The Notre Dame love went back to his early years. She sent me an arts and crafts picture of a project when he was 5 years old in kindergarten, and it was an ND kind of drawing. So we knew it ran deep, a little bit like Chris Quinn back in the day of a young guy. But Dane, I wanted to ask you a little bit, which is neat. Dane's father was a great college player at Dayton and coaches at Capital University in Columbus. Tell me a little bit about the game playing against your dad last year. What was that like?
Yeah, it was definitely weird. Always growing up playing with him, he's, instead of helping me this time, he's kind of against me. Definitely pretty cool. It was a cool atmosphere, and just getting to experience that. I don't think many guys can say that. And just to have that day and that kind of experience was very cool for me.
Mike, your television show, Inside Notre Dame Basketball, runs on Sports Time Ohio. And of all our affiliates, they run it more than anybody, 6-7 times a week. So maybe it's because of Dane's presence there. And not only did you get to play against a team coached by your dad last year, you played against Ohio State this year, played well, scored 16 points. I think if you had one more guy, you were shorthanded that night, you would have won the game. What was that like? Yeah,
that was definitely also a little weird. I actually know about, pretty much all the coaches and, a good number of the guys I still have a relationship with. So it was definitely a little bit weird, but, I'm here and I was playing for Notre Dame, not Ohio State. So at the end of the day, it was a cool experience, but, ultimately we didn't get it done that night, but it was pretty cool.
Jack, Dane is in our Mendoza Business School, which is amazingly challenging. Dane, talk a little bit about the rigors of Mendoza.
Yeah, at times Mendoza can kind of beat up on you a little bit. It's kind of just weathering the storm sometimes, and I think all the guys in my class have realized that. But at the end of the day, we've figured it out a little bit. We've got through it. Hopefully we can continue that to the next 3 semesters. Whatever it is.
There's another Notre Dame connection with Dane, and that's the fact that your dad, not only is he a great coach, but he was a great player at Dayton, graduating back in 1986. I am so old that I called those Notre Dame Dayton games. I do remember him. So what is it like to not only play for or grow up with a coach as a dad, but a coach who could actually do what he's teaching you how to do? That's a somewhat unusual combination, to have a coach who was also a great player.
Yeah, it's funny. He actually has a lot of stories about him playing in South Bend, during those days. Skip Meyer was actually still there, the athletic trainer. So he knew him, and he actually, was talking about a story about when one year he played in South Bend, and after a bucket, the fans were ruthlessly throwing stuff on the court. Fans are really into it, and it was just funny kind of to hear that, and to see 40 years later, I'm playing here, and getting to experience that as well. And I think it's been cool for him just to, kind of come back and see where things have been. So it's been cool for both of us, I think.
Mike, that's how intense that rivalry was, because I remember them throwing stuff at Dayton as well. Fortunately, that doesn't happen as much anymore today.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? We just want to get half the building full someday. That's our next goal when we get out of this pandemic.
Dane, let's move it on to something you're very good at. On the court, a fast break. You know what the fast break is on Coach Brey's show. It's the rapid fire questions. So have fun with this. First car you ever drove?
Chevy Tahoe.
Favorite musical group or artist?
Ooh. Billy Currington.
Who is your role model?
My dad.
One thing the public would be surprised to learn about you?
I am pretty decent at golf.
Favorite NBA player?
Michael Jordan.
Favorite thing to do when relaxing?
Hang out at the lake.
Favorite sport to play other than basketball? Would it be golf?
Probably have to be golf. Yep.
Favorite part of practice?
I would say the half court shots at the end of practice.
You almost hit one on Saturday. Worst part of practice?
Probably compete drill.
Best part of your game?
Honestly, probably rebounding.
Part of your game you need to work on?
Defensively.
City or place in the world you would like to visit?
Hawaii.
Which is better, knocking down a long three, dishing out a terrific pass, or coming up with a big steal?
Dishing out a good pass.
One thing you always hear from Coach Brey in practice?
I would have to say next play.
Assistant coach, who is most like Coach Brey?
Bolanos.
I don't know if we should keep asking that question,
Undefeated.
Coach. It's like it's just too easy, right?
We're undefeated. Hey, he's going to get that Hawaii wish.
Yes.
I'll be in Maui next year, but don't bring your golf clubs. He's a shark on the golf course. Don't ever play him, Jack.
I won't. He's going to have trouble out there in Maui, though, because there's golf courses everywhere. So it'd be hard to resist. Just give me a one or two word description of each other assistant coach other than Rob Bolanos. Scott Martin.
Quiet, collected, but also has a different side to him.
Ryan Humphrey.
Likes to think he can beat me in pig, but he can't.
Harold Swanigan.
Swan is another one of us. Good friend and good coach.
Toughest place to play in the ACC.
John Paul Jones Arena.
Player on the team most like you.
Nick Jogo.
Player on the team who will surprise fans the most this season.
Nate Laszewski.
Toughest Notre Dame player to guard.
Brendan Sub.
Best defender on the team.
Cormac Ryan.
Best leaper on the team.
Probably Robbie Carmody.
Best dunker on the team.
Probably Robbie.
Worst dunker on the team.
I'd probably have to take that one.
Best dresser on the team.
Nick Jogo.
Worst dresser on the team.
Matt Zona.
Best singer on the team.
Probably Nate Laszewski.
Ooh, worst singer on the team.
Matt Zona.
Best comedian on the team.
Probably Prentice.
Guy who thinks he's funny, but he's really not.
Madzona.
Free throw shooting competition. Who wins? You or Coach Brey?
It's got to be me.
And that's the way we want
it. Yes, yes.
Dane, outstanding job as always. Thanks for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thanks, Dane. See you at compete drill. Practice later.
Sounds good.
We will return to wrap up this week's Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com, right after this timeout. Welcome back to the Mike Brey Show. So, Mike, you will go from 8 days between games to 3 games in 7 days this week, beginning with a Sunday night game at Miami.
Well, it's going to be great to get back in playing, Jack. You know, it's been a long week, and we felt we were playing well after BC. So you want to get back on the court, but certainly Miami, an athletic group that can really drive it. Last time they played at home, they beat Louisville, you know, so it'll be a very tough, but it's like you said, I like the idea, and fingers crossed that we get to play them, that we have 3 games in a short window. We need to keep playing games, as many as possible.
Miami also won at NC State. They beat Purdue in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. They have been really riddled with injuries, but in some ways that makes them more dangerous because you're never quite sure who's coming back.
Yeah, they've been in they've had some really good wins. They don't have their point guard Likes. I'm not sure if he'll play against us, but they've kind of figured out how to do it without him. And again, you know, we're going to have to be really good. And we're going to have to be in a stance, and we're going to have to be in that compete drill stance, as Dane mentioned, for almost every possession to win on the road.
Then you come home to host probably the surprise team in the ACC so far this year, a now 5-1 Virginia Tech team, a team you got off to a great start against in Blacksburg on January 10th, but couldn't hold on.
Well, they just really defended us in the second half. That was a disappointing game for us because we were playing well for 20 minutes, but they athletically defended us and we couldn't keep them off the backboard. So maybe it's fitting that we get them quickly back in our building on that Wednesday, and we get to see our compete and intensity level against a really athletic group of guys in Virginia Tech.
Mike, as always, thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Folks, that will do it for this week's edition of the Mike Brey Show, but we will return again at this time next week to talk about the Miami and Virginia Tech games and preview Notre Dame's 3rd game in 7 days at Pittsburgh. So until next week, for Coach Brey, I'm Jack Nolan. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, and as always, go Irish.